They care. They really do care. They might just care more intensely and thoroughly than anyone else ever has. It is, in fact, this caring quality that makes a person a self-conscious progressive, liberal, or Democrat. They care about the planet. They care because our species has wildly overpopulated itself and our freedoms are unsustainably consuming our natural resources. They care enough to make every effort to lower the number of what they have called useless mouths, restricting liberty in the process. They care about social justice and equity. They intend to personally right every past wrong by reversing historical precedents. The previously marginalized will henceforth be master of their former oppressors. Well, more precisely, the descendants of the disenfranchised will exact revenge upon the progeny of their former tormentors, or exacting retribution on anyone today who might even superficially resemble them. They care about liberating our society from its inherited superstitions. Judeo-Christian norms must be subverted to allow for the redefinition of every aspect of biological and cultural reality. Mere social constructs, such as the innocence of childhood, the immutability of sex, the ownership of property, and the desirability of a colorblind and socially mobile meritocracy, must be deconstructed. Objective reality itself must be revealed to be a touchstone of white supremacy. They care about empowering illegal aliens and career criminals, and about disarming citizens. By reversing the legacy of the American Revolution, they hope to bring the United States under transnational regulation in accordance with global norms. They care enough to ask truly incisive questions. Why should America be exceptional? Why can't our way of life be equalized with that of, say, Zimbabwe? Why should American citizens expect treatment better than that received by, for instance, the residents of Myanmar? They care about governance. The coercive powers of the state must be unfettered from outmoded 18th century constitutional limits in order to rewrite human nature, right every wrong, and save the planet. Their ideal utopia will be constructed on the bones of Western civilization. As demonstrated by the federal government's response to the disaster in East Palestine, Ohio, the only thing that they do not care about is everyday Americans like you and me. For reasons that I cannot fathom, Biden's Federal Emergency Management Agency denied those affected emergency aid of any kind. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg showed no interest in this spill and made no appearance within weeks of the disaster. He did find the time to go to another part of Ohio, though, where he castigated white construction workers for taking too many jobs that people of color could have had. President Biden himself has chosen to personally travel to Kiev, Ukraine, to deliver yet more American aid. Meanwhile, his bully pulpit has been conspicuously silent about the disastrous derailment in our own Midwest. The reckless choice to immediately burn the released chemicals may have been the worst response that authorities could have taken. Recommended by the culpable Norfolk-Southern Railroad Company and approved by both Ohio and neighboring Pennsylvania's governors, this burn created and dispersed quantities of phosgene gas equivalent to that released in major World War I poison gas attacks. Politicians and government bureaucrats cannot seem to work up any outraged determination to get to the bottom of this, nor do they express any conspicuous enthusiasm to help the Americans whose lives have been forever changed by this disaster. Instead, these officials convey a blithe spirit of get on with your lives. They show not the slightest serious curiosity about the long-term effects on the people in the zone of destruction, their lifespan, their health, community, livestock, livelihoods, or property. How can it be that our elected leaders and their administrative functionaries have expressed so little concern for the fate of their fellow Americans? Many of those officials are people who once unreasonably blamed President George W. Bush for not doing enough to compensate for the lack of preparedness by both New Orleans municipal government and Louisiana state government for Hurricane Katrina. Normally, the Biden administration misses no opportunity to establish precedents for the federal government to intervene in the personal and business lives of Americans. How can activists who advocate government intervention as the solution to every real or imagined human problem not be interested in using federal resources to help those in the area affected? The reason for their unconcern may lie in the racism and bigotry of today's liberals and progressives. The people of East Palestine, Ohio, are not a part of their narrative. It is a poor, white, rural area on the Pennsylvania border of Ohio. The vast majority of its citizens have no college degrees. These rustics voted overwhelmingly for Trump. The caring of many of our left-leaning neighbors is an expression not of empathy or of sympathy, but rather of their personal narcissism. Their feelings matter more than objective reality. Like a previous generation of progressives' callous indifference to the plight of the people of Vietnam after the communist takeover, today's most ardent humanitarians are willfully blind to anything beyond their narrative. Be clear. Their motivation is to satisfy their inner craving to make a difference. They do not really care about others. They certainly do not care about you or me.